In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my firm belief why I believe UFO disclosure is going to be happening in 2025, and that will result in open alien contact perhaps in 2026. I'm going to go through some very specific points. Stay tuned for the whole video so you can listen to me talk through these things. Once you hear this, if you're not on top of this or if you're struggling with this, I think you will agree with me that disclosure and open alien contact is unavoidable very soon. To help understand this, I encourage you to question your reality and then change it. Please show up later for the live guided interdimensional meditation to activate the Solar Flash Ascension event. We do this every Wednesday and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's free, it's a live stream, and if you're not able to do the live streams, click on the live button on the YouTube channel and you can see all the archived versions and you can enjoy them. If you want to support the channel, I encourage you to go to thunderwizard.com. There are so many ways that you can empower yourself and train your body, your mind, and your energy to shift up into these higher dimensional frequencies that we are about to experience. You can also find my books at michaelwilliamdenny.com. If you want to support the channel directly, you can go to support.thunderwizard.com. Watch the video there to know, follow the instructions. All right, so full disclosure in 2025, open alien contact in 2026. I did not, I've heard about this and I wanted to believe that what is happening now was going to happen. But now that we've got this drone thing going on and all of the other stuff that's associated with it, what's happening is that people are forced to really take seriously the extraterrestrial question. And the interesting thing is that, it would be one thing if people were having experiences, like if these drone sightings were going on and these UFO sightings were going on. But normally, that kind of stuff's been going on for a very long time, just hasn't been acknowledged. Hasn't been openly acknowledged by the government, by the military. So now what we have is the Pentagon has been trying to convince us for the past 2-3 years that extraterrestrials exist and they might be a threat. You now have these so-called whistleblowers. There's a handful of them, you know who I'm talking about. They're openly going on to mainstream news channels. They're on podcasts everywhere. They are, for some reason out of nowhere, Congress has been having these hearings for really no reason. They've been having these hearings on UFOs and their threat, and they're listening to these so-called whistleblowers who are ex-military and going around and supposedly revealing top secret, military secrets about a secret UFO retrieval program. And somehow these ex-military, they're they quit, somehow they're not, floating face down in a ditch somewhere. So we either have a disclosure, what you're supposed to believe is that the Pentagon and the military are suppressing knowledge. Now, when you're in that experience, it makes you want to know more. So there's just enough out there. It's just like this whole performance to make you believe that there's a suppression of evidence, and then you're going to demand disclosure. And then what's going to happen is that they're going to give you disclosure, but that disclosure is going to be false because they have another agenda. Click on the links below to find out more. I'm not going to get into more detail on this channel because as long as this is something that eventually could be, a censorable offense, I'm not going to get into it. But click on the links below to know more. Sometimes people leave comments and they don't follow my suggestions. Click on the links before you start leaving comments, please. So let's just get right into it here before I start babbling incoherently. All right, so why UFO disclosure will destroy 3D civilization. So what I'm going to tell you is exactly that. This disclosure that is coming, first off, the first disclosure that is trying to happen right now, by the way, this whole thing with the drones and even the plasmoids and the things that people are seeing in the sky, these are not extraterrestrials. This is advanced human technology, secret, deep, dark, unacknowledged military technology that even the majority of the top secret, even the Pentagon, there are people in the Pentagon who don't know that these technologies exist. The majority of people in government don't know that these technologies exist. FBI, CIA, most of these people don't know these technologies exist, which is why they are being honest. They're saying we don't know what these are. They're being honest. They don't know. There's a small group of people that do. So these technologies are being revealed, and what's going to come of it is that it's eventually going to turn into this. We've been trying to hold back this knowledge, but now we have to reveal it to you. We have been chasing extraterrestrials and reverse engineering, and now we have our own space force, but it's only for your protection because they're a threat, and you know that because of something that's going to happen. So something very likely could be staged that looks like an alien invasion, but it won't be. So that, even if we don't get to that, which I hope we don't, and I'm meditating that it never comes to that, because just the push to create this awareness of extraterrestrials, forcing people who don't believe in extraterrestrials, forcing them to believe in them by traumatizing them with these drones and with these higher technological things. I mean, there's also, people don't, I mean, if you do the tiniest bit of research, you find out that even civilians have access to extremely powerful holographic projections. They're doing it all over the place. So imagine, that's what we know of. Imagine if there's a psyop involved, then there are going to be, holographic projections that are even more crazy and believable than the ones that you know of. So the point I'm trying to make is that this whole drone thing is not what it's being presented to you as. Somebody wants you to believe that there is an extraterrestrial threat to your safety. Now, that is going to backfire. Because if, the people behind this had simply done what they've been doing, forever, which is suppress this knowledge and tell people that extraterrestrials don't exist, if they had continued like that, people would have been fine. There would have been a minority of people like myself that have had experiences that know different, but they would have been, such a small minority and, would have been such bizarre experiences that nobody would have taken it seriously, and they would have continued to have this three-dimensional reality that we live in where you have to have money and be connected to banks, and that we have this economy that's run by petroleum, and you have wars and military and all that and credit scores. That structure, they could have kept that going forever. Because, up until now, and even right now, humans don't want to know this. Humans just want to have a place to sleep, food to eat, be able to be told that they have value and relevance, even if that means that they live their life slaving away at some job. The whole culture. I mean, people, but for some reason, these people have decided that the thing to do is to create this false flag event and in order to frighten you so that they can get more control. And it's going to completely backfire because it's going to make people who didn't believe in UFOs now investigate it. And that is going to bring the full disclosure. So if you click in the links below, you're going to find out that there are real whistleblowers who are prepared to come forth, very brave people, and when they do, it is going to blow this thing wide open. And when that happens, there is no going back. We're already there. I mean, if they turned off the drone thing now, it would still end up going in this direction, but they're not going to stop. So let's get started here. So total disclosure completely exposes the petroleum Ponzi scheme. So our economy is completely 100% driven by the lie that you don't have access to various fuel resources. Okay? If, for instance, there were 0-point energy devices where you could create a device that would pull energy simply out of the air, and you could use that to power your home, heat your home, cool your home, power your vehicles. If you had that, guess what? The entire economy would collapse. That is why there are rumors of people. I remember a guy in the 80s who created a car engine that ran on water, and he proved it. He went on to one local news channel and showed it and proved it, and he ended up dead. I mean, he just disappeared. The last words he said are, "Oh my God, they killed me." So that's what happens when you come up with free 0-point energy devices. Why? Because the entire economy is run by petroleum. If you want to know what the big deal is about the petrodollar, and why China and Russia, why it's such a big deal that they're no longer using the dollar for petroleum, is because petroleum runs the world and other resources as well. So disclosure is going to put an end to that. Real disclosure is going to put an end to that. All right, so total disclosure completely exposes the petroleum Ponzi scheme, meaning our economy. The awareness of 0-point energy destroys monetary enslavement. So you realize that you buy into the whole monetary system because we live in a giant slave labor camp that doesn't allow you to grow your own food, doesn't allow you to go hunt for your own food, doesn't allow you to live on your own land. I mean, if you look into it, people who try to homestead, people who try to live out in the middle of the woods and live like our ancestors a couple hundred years ago, the government's going to come along and shut you down. They're going to tell you can't do that. And just to give you another idea, the diesel engine was originally designed not to run on gasoline, but to run on vegetable oil. And what happens is that they altered the diesel gasoline so that it could only run on diesel gasoline. But you can, if somebody knows how to, they can tinker with it, and you can simply use French fry oil. I mean, if you go around to all the McDonald's and say, "Can you give me your used French fry oil?" You can stick that in your gas tank and your car will run. You'll smell like French fries, but your car will run on it. And the other thing is that if you do that, cops will pull you over. They will pull you over and give you a ticket because it's illegal. It's illegal to do that. Why would that be illegal? Because this is a petroleum-based economy. Anyway, just to give you some ideas of people we just don't think about it. Again, we're just like lemmings. We're just like, rats in a maze. You just put a little bit of cheese in front of us and we do whatever we're told to do. People believe this is the way reality has to be. But once this starts to happen, then the collapse of our economy is imminent. And again, why the people who are trying to bring about this false flag event with the drones, why they decided to come up with this, I don't know, because it's the most ridiculously stupid thing anybody could do. It is absolutely destined to backfire on them. All right, so awareness of zero-point energy destroys monetary enslavement. Disclosure exposes plutocracy lies. So the level of lies, for me, I was duped. I was a smart guy. I was an educated guy. I was a spiritual guy. I definitely wasn't part of the mainstream. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about fame. I was just into surfing and meditating, and as long as I had that, I was happy. But I believed everything I had been taught about politics, about government, about money. I just said, this is the way society has to be. It just won't work any other way. And I believed that we had a free press that told the truth. I believed that the press spoke as it pretended to do in the 60s and 70s. I believed that it spoke truth to power. All of that. I believed our politicians were actually, just hardworking people that worked their way up the ranks and were sincere and honest, and maybe it was an imperfect system and maybe people were corrupt, but I believed in all of that. And then during the pandemic, there were certain off-label prescriptions that people were saying helped, and I said, oh, that's interesting. And as soon as I started looking into that, these things became anathema, and you couldn't talk about it. You still can't talk about it publicly even on YouTube. And when I did just the tiniest bit of research, it opened up a hole, and I realized that was just the tip of the iceberg, and that underneath it all, I found out that all of the tinfoil hat theories were accurate, except for maybe the flat earth. Other than that, just about every single one of them was completely, totally accurate. That's what's going to happen here. Bringing about this disclosure, even if you try and do it in a false way, it's people are just going to, once people go, what, aliens exist? They're real? And then reality starts coming apart, they're going to keep probing and asking questions. And there's just no holding this back. So it's going to expose the lies. Plutocracy means ruled by the rich, which is the world that we live in. So the petroleum economy collapses. The banks are going to collapse because banks function off the assumption that you don't have access to resources. And the only way you can get resources is if you have this thing called money. And so if you don't have access to this thing called money, you can't survive, which is ridiculous because it's a completely made up thing. Money doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. If you drop somebody in the middle of the forest, drop them in the middle of the Amazon and, give them a bag of, $1 million, it's not going to do anything for them. If you run into a tribe of people that don't use money and you say, here's $1 million, they're going to go, I don't know what to do with that. They're going to use it as fire starter or, to wipe their rear end. Or, they'll stick it in their ears or something. It doesn't have any value. It doesn't do anything. You can't eat it. You can't wear it. You can burn it, and that's about it. But we're in a society where we don't even use cash anymore. Cash doesn't exist. So the idea that you need money in order to get resources is it's an intellectual concept that's been put in your brain that you believe. And so they have laws, because if you go, wait a second, this doesn't do anything. I'm going to go out and hunt my own food. I'm going to build my own shelters. The government's going to come along and put a gun to your head and say, no. That's why we have people who are homeless because they don't have money, and they starve to death on the street because they don't have money. It's not because that there isn't plenty of food around them or plenty of resources. It's that they're not allowed to. You have to go through this funnel. And the funnel is you have to use money. You have to do this because we believe if we don't, society will fall apart. But all it is a way of controlling you, of enslaving you. This is all going to come crashing down. So the banks are going to collapse. And without the rich exploiting the poor, the need for government's military collapses. Disclosure forces massive awakening of extraterrestrials in consciousness. So the disclosure that's going to happen, and if you click in the links below, I think I said this earlier, there's going to be some revelations by actual whistleblowers who are going to have verifiable proof of the real hidden reverse engineered space program and how that's been used in ways that have only been used for propping up the plutocracy, enslavement, Ponzi scheme. It's another word for economy. Our economy is a Ponzi scheme. So watch what happens. It's already backfiring. And one of the links I'm going to put down below. I mean, you have comedians, Saturday Night Live comedians, who are revealing, and exposing the lies of the plutocracy, and that only happens when the entire thing is coming apart at the seams. When the comedians are telling the truth that you can't get from news, the whole thing is already falling apart. So disclosure is going to force massive awakening of extraterrestrials and consciousness, and that is going to blow up in their faces. Again, they want you to believe. They want to introduce to you the idea that extraterrestrials exist, which people didn't believe up until now even most people still don't believe it, really. So forcing you to believe it is going to make you start thinking in ways that go outside of the Ponzi scheme. Just knowing that ETs exist. So that means that the people who are creating this false flag event are wanting to destroy our current economy and our current society because they want to rebuild it into something else. So obviously, slave owners want to have more control over you, not less. So they're creating a scenario where they can control you even more, but it's going to backfire. Just like, when I in 2021 started looking into this off-label prescription that helped, even though I up until that point I would have believed whatever I was told. Because this particular medication was actually very safe. It was safer than aspirin, but I was being told by the experts that it was this horrible poison when I knew that was absolutely untrue. That made me just start looking into, these other tinfoil hat theories, and then everything, once that one lie was exposed, everything came crashing down. When we're talking about extraterrestrial existence, and when that lie is exposed, that is going to create an awakening of consciousness in and of itself, because just by doing that, the religion that we have, that tells us that, we live, we're the only beings in this universe, that comes crashing down, which means everything that we've been conditioned to believe starts to come apart. All right, so now let's talk about why open contact means shifting to 5D. So what this will do is, earlier, as I said, disclosure, what it will do. Again, this idea that we've been programmed to believe that extraterrestrials have to go and talk to our government. This is why there's all this ridiculous nonsense out there of people saying that there are groups of extraterrestrials that are working with the government. The only reason you believe that is because you actually believe that that government is a real thing, like the weather. The weather is a real thing. You can't make that up. It's, I'm living here, in northern Florida, and it gets cold here for me. I don't like it when it gets below 60 degrees. It gets down into the 40s. And today it was 55. That's freezing to me. That's not something I can deny. That's a real thing. The economy is a completely made up thing. It doesn't exist. When that idea disappears, if you and I don't agree that the economy is a real thing, then it stops existing. If you and I don't agree in the weather, we're still going to freeze our ass off. So the concept behind our, that we have these governments, and because the other governments, like the Chinese government and the Russian government, if they want to interact with us, they got to talk to the heads of our government. So we have this idea that extraterrestrials have to respect that, and they don't. They can talk to whoever they want. They don't have to go and land on the White House lawn and say, "Take me to your leader." They don't have to do that. They can talk to you directly. So when human beings start to become aware that this is a real thing, they're going to want to connect with them. They're going to want. In fact, somebody contacted me that I don't know. It's on. I've got old profiles on dating sites, and I put on there, that I'm a contactee because I don't want somebody in my life that can't deal with that, right? And somebody said, I want to contact them. Help me. No, I'm not going to do that. That's. But it points out that there are people that are desperate now because now they know it's real and they want that. So, 6 months or a year ago, I was a lunatic. But now because of, people like David Grush and the Pentagon saying that extraterrestrials exist, and I start saying, yes, I'm a contact of extraterrestrials, instead of people now they're going to start asking me, oh, tell me about it. How can I contact them? So it's just, anyway, the awakening that's going to come, because just the idea of it is going to awaken people. We can't stop it. So after UFO disclosure, humans will seek open contact. Open contact will be individual. No possibility of psyop. That's the great thing. Now, if ETs did what the History Channel wants you to believe, which is that they land on the White House lawn and say, "Take me to your leader," and they make treaties with governments and things like that, as though that's the only way that they can communicate with you. Once you take away that nonsense, and you realize that extraterrestrials are going to interact with people individually. In other words, you won't need to go and watch the news to find out, what the aliens are saying. You won't have to go, yes, well, the Pleiadians met with President Trump and they talked over a treaty on how we can make trade. You don't need that anymore. You're going to have personal connection with them. And people are going to be sought out who have had personal connections. And then they're going to want to have that. And then when that happens, then people are going to start waking up on their own awakening. They won't have to depend on a belief system, a religion, a political party. They're not going to need that. So that's going to create an awakening that's just going to destroy the whole collective consciousness, which is now woven together by this thing that we call society. That is going to come apart. And what does that mean? It means that we'll create a new consciousness, and that consciousness will operate on completely different understandings. So open contact will be individual. There'll be no possibility of a psyop. Open contact means sharing of 3D to 5D frequencies. Now, before I made this video, I just meditated for half a second, and I'm like, how can I best put it, sort of asking my friends. And I had this feeling, this vision, if you will, in my mind of, what happens when an extraterrestrial makes contact with a 3D person. Their frequency is at such a level that you either have to rise up to meet that, or it's going to push you away. So here's the thing about open contact. We think, open contact, the word open contact assumes that it's hidden, which gives you the feeling that ETs are hidden from us, that they're hiding. And so open contact will be that they come out of the bushes, say, I'm here, I'm going to contact you openly now. And so we think they're hiding, but the truth is they're not hiding. Open contact happens when we open ourselves up to that. In order to do that, we have to go to their frequency. We're the ones that are hiding from them. We are hiding in our 3D mindset. And, because we think it's what keeps us alive. So open contact means the death of the third dimensional mindset. So again, this whole idea of open contact is here if you want it. I'm in open contact with them on a very deep, personal, intimate level. So I can tell you it's not hidden. It's available to anybody who wants to open themselves up to it. So that means open contact isn't going to happen like, the ETs are going to decide on June 16th, 2026, they're going to come in mass and they're going to land on the... No, that's not how it works, because they're already here. They can shift down to a third dimension if they want to, but my experience and my guess is that they don't want to do that. Why would they? I'm in a nice warm house. It's 40 degrees outside. Why the heck am I going to walk out in the cold? Why the heck are they going to drop down to our third dimensional level? It's not as comfortable as where they are. But if we want to come to their house, we can go do that. So open contact is here. We just have to be the ones. We are the ones that have to come out of hiding. So the sharing of 3D to 5D frequencies means that when we open ourselves up, we will begin to vibrate on a higher frequency, which means we will have access to them, meaning we will come out of the shadows. We will seek open contact. They're already there, ready and waiting for open contact. We need to be the ones that open it. But again, that frequency is going to either pull you. What happens is once we start going there, that frequency, it's going to connect to our souls. And we're gonna want to connect on a soul level, which will pull us closer to them. People aren't able to connect to their souls. It's going to be frightening. It'll push them away. So that is what this shift is going to be about. The split, the dimensional split. So 3D civilization cannot survive the exposure to 5D frequencies. After ET contact, 3D interaction will feel like eating cardboard. So in other words, what I'm saying is that, if you're eating crappy food and that's the only food you have, you eat it, because without it you starve to death. But once you actually get hold of real fresh food in this, processed garbage, you realize it doesn't feed you. You stop eating it. So living in the third dimension is going to be like that. It's going to be like eating cardboard. It's just there's going to be no pleasure in it. And we're going to want to have that higher dimensional soul experience. So again, people have asked me, and and I understand because I asked that question as well. When is the shift going to happen? As though the shift is something outside of us that comes to us and changes us. Your shift to a higher dimension comes from your desire. But you can't desire something you haven't experienced. So open contact is going to create the same kinds of experiences that I'm having. In fact, what they've told me is that you're the first, meaning the kind of experience that I've had is the first of its kind. I might not be the very first person to have this level of interaction with them. I imagine I'm not. But it means that what I'm experiencing, everybody's experiencing. So when I went through this completely by myself. And I was having my reality destroyed. My consciousness was expanding in ways, my 3D understanding. I had nobody that I could go to, nobody that I could talk to, because nobody had experienced it like I had. And I went around looking for it, and I really couldn't find anybody that had experienced it at my level. But when you've got 2 or 3 or 4 people that have had that experience at that level, they come together and they support each other. That creates a new shared reality, a new consensus of reality. And once you've got groups of people who can come together, that creates a new reality. It creates a new shift, a new frequency, and they shift up. So that's opposite from the shift hitting you and shifting you up. You shift up. Open contact will be I don't know if it's going to be the only catalyst, but it will be a catalyst. Because once you've experienced it, once you've gone beyond your fear, past a certain point, you can never go back. You can never unsee it. You can never unfeel it. You know, like in the movie The Matrix, where the guy says, I want to go back in. That will never happen. Nobody will ever want to go back in. Because unlike the movie Matrix, you know, when you come out of the Matrix, you're miserable because it's this horrible, you know, dystopian, nothing society where you have to drink, you know, just like goopy milk, right? It's the opposite. When you come out of the Matrix, it's the most beautiful place you can imagine. You have to die to your third dimensional reality to go there, so it's not an easy experience. But that's what's waiting. That's what's waiting. And once people start experiencing it, it's going to be easier and easier for everybody else. So again, awakening isn't going to come to you. You are going to choose it. And open contact is among the first catalysts. And open contact is inevitable with this disclosure. Even with the people who are trying to give you the fake disclosure, it's going to backfire on them. It's already backfiring on them. Just the links below are something they had never imagined. Because they really believe that you're so frightened that you will never want to go beyond your safe little world that they believe they've created for you. They look down on you as sheep, literally, like animals. They believe that they're smarter than you. They believe that they're more awakened than you. And they believe that they're superior to you. And they honestly believe that you are too weak and too frightened to expand beyond their control. And, you know, there's some truth to this. Again, I've been saying this, you know, if the plutocracy had just kept us at the level of the 90s, where, or at least, you know, here in the United States or in the, you know, the first world, if they had just given us the ability to have stable jobs, have income, buy houses, you know, eat food, have jet skis and toys and watch television. If they had just kept that going and given us toys like, you know, iPhones and iPads, people wouldn't have wanted anything else. Even though they were in a state of slavery, as long as they got their needs met and they were entertained, they wouldn't care. And they could have done that. They could have done that and and made themselves billionaires. They might not have been, you know, they might not have been able to have, you know, the kinds of, you know, trillions of dollars, which is what you know, we think that Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, and he's not even close. He's the richest man that you're allowed to know of. There are people that have trillions of dollars. And again, what are you going to do with that? What do you do once you have more than $1 billion? Seriously, what are you going to do with it? So if they had just been happy with being billionaires, you know, and we could have stayed in this matrix for a long time. But because they are so narcissistic, because their identities are so empty and they're so miserable, and because of, you know, their projection, which is what they project onto you, is how they feel about themselves. They hate themselves. They think they're the worst beings that exist. They think they're unlovable. They think they're these tiny little helpless creatures, which is why they surround themselves with as much wealth as they can get their hands on, as much power as they can get their hands on. And so they project onto you how they feel about themselves. And what they don't realize is that you aren't that. You aren't this tiny little being that hates themselves. You are connected to something within. You have access to that. You have access to the very thing that frightens them the most, which is the soul. And so because they can't even comprehend somebody awakening from the soul, because they haven't even come close to that, they are unconsciously creating the very mechanisms that's going to bring about the awakening. And so trying to bring a false flag alien event is the very thing that is going to make people want to go, wait, I want to talk to these beings. Because, all it takes is one person to go, well, I know I'm supposed to be scared of them, but I'm going to go talk to them. That's what I did. All right, and so 5D frequencies will force the 3D, 5D polarization, the Earth split, which is, I kind of described earlier, which is, once contact is made, and again, open contact is going to be an individual thing. It's not going to be a mass thing where they come in mass. That's not how it's going to happen. I could be wrong. I don't care. They can come. I'm open for them to do whatever. I'm fine with that. But that's probably not how it's going to be. It's going to be an individual thing. It's going to be like popcorn. And those people, when they awaken, they'll come together. They'll create a new reality, which will shift up to a higher frequency. And it'll be sort of like they'll awaken to, they'll realize, oh, I'm surrounded by these beings. They've been here this whole time. Well, that's because their frequency was down here. They couldn't see. Beings are standing right next to you. They're with you all the time. So the connection to the contact event will then create a polarization, because again, the people who aren't ready for that are going to run from it. They're going to run as far as they can. The plutocrats are absolutely terrified of the actual extraterrestrials. Absolutely terrified of them. Because, not just because it represents the loss of their power over you, but because it means that they have to tap into their soul. Once they do that, that is the most frightening thing to them, because people who are psychologically wounded, the last thing they want is to actually feel love. That's why, really messed up people, don't have normal loving relationships. It's abusive. They're into, they call it kinky stuff. That's why they like hurting each other. People like to be hurt instead of loved. So, because true love is the most painful thing you can go through when you're damaged. So people who are ready to be loved will shift up. People who aren't will shift down, and it'll be by choice. So this idea that there's going to be a shift imposed upon reality isn't going to happen. It's going to be our decision. We will choose it. And we can choose it right now. This is why we do these meditations that we're going to do one tonight. It's a way of choosing to connect and to shift. So I welcome you to come to the meditation tonight. Whoops, let's see, where am I? All right, so 5D frequencies will force the 3D, 5D polarization, what we call the Earth split. Human ascension is inevitable and unstoppable. So I now see this. That this is an unstoppable event. That what's going to happen, as I said, worst case scenario, the false flag event that is currently underway is going to make people want to connect. As you can see in the links, it'll create more of those situations. Best case scenario, people with consciousness like you and I, we intend a different reality. It's going to continue to throw monkey wrenches into the efforts of those who are trying to keep us down in a lower third dimensional state. I think that things will happen much more quickly and much more powerfully. I believe that, because now what is coming is that there is going to be very likely a disclosure event coming from, true whistleblowers. I think it's inevitable that the truth has to come. This is the thing about the truth. The truth will always find its way out. Always. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And so I believe the truth is about to come out. And once that happens, there will be no stopping it. There will be no stopping this awakening event. And I think it has to happen because we're already in the, it's being shoved down our throat. It's being shoved down our throat. Extraterrestrials exist. And once you wake up to that, there's an interesting thing that I saw happen. I met somebody who was abducted. And I talked to them and I found out that they weren't making it up. They weren't imagining it. They weren't deluded. They really had been abducted. And this person didn't ask, so I didn't tell them. In hindsight, I probably should have. But I didn't tell them, listen, what you experienced was real, but it was faked. Those weren't aliens. Those were human beings using all kinds of stuff. I didn't say that. But what I found out is that this person had the abduction experience, and then later, when this person, I don't know, was sick or something like that, mentally reached out to what she believed were her abductors and said, if you're real, I need you to help me. And she had a contact experience. Now, she didn't know that those were two different experiences. She conflated them together. When I talked to her, she would talk about both experiences as though they were two different versions of the same general phenomenon. And again, she didn't ask, so I didn't tell her. And in hindsight, I should have told her. But what I walked away with is that extraterrestrials don't care. They don't need you to know the truth. They only want to connect with you. If you reach out to them, they're going to connect with you. So there's probably going to be this state where people are going to have conflated understandings. And some people will have actual extraterrestrial experiences. Some people are, and they're videotaping them. Because of these drone events, they're actually reaching out mentally, and guess what? They're connecting with real ETs. The ETs don't care. So those real ET experiences are going to start overshadowing the fake ones. Again, and that's because these fake ones got people thinking, like the woman who was abducted. They never would have thought to themselves that if we abduct this woman and pretend that we're ETs, that then she really will connect with ETs. It never entered their mind. But this is, again, the short-sightedness of the plutocrats. They don't realize what they're doing. And this is, again, you see this with thieves and criminals. They unconsciously always out themselves. Anyway, that's what's happening right now, and that's why I think after this disclosure, which is probably coming in the next month or so, that's going to blow things wide open, and then the world is going to reel from that. And that's going to open up every single other lie, which is going to bring this whole society and this whole economy crashing down, which means we will create a new one. And then I believe that the awakening event will be the result of that. And then I believe that open contact will also be the result of that. And I think that could happen within a year if things, I think that's very possible. Anyway, we will see. I'm happy to be wrong about it. But if you want to help the situation, please show up later for the live guided interdimensional meditation. And I'll leave it there for now, my friends. Again, if you want to help the channel, please go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe. The subscriptions is what allows me to, eat, basically. So thunderwizard.com, subscribe at a level above the free, because a free subscription does nothing for me. You can go to the shop as well and look for practices that are empowering to you. You can also support me at support.thunderwizard.com. Follow the instructions there. That's it, my friends. I love you very much. I'll see you later tonight. And until then, please take very good care of yourselves. And I will see you all very soon.